Hello, fictional. Welcome to the Fiction Series X. Today we are gonna see what if Issei become a Zerius Part 2. If you end up liking this video, please consider subscribe, so without further ado, let's get into the video. A new development. The Lilith Maximum Security Detention Center, aka the Lilith Underworld Prison. A massive structure located in the Devil capital city and made to hold inmates that for whatever reason could not be contained within normal circumstances. The facility was essentially made of 3 separate levels. On the ground floor, level 1 were the warden's office along with a cafeteria, a break room for the guards, interrogation rooms, and the courtyard. Simply put, this floor was mainly for the guards, with lower priority prisoners being allowed to roam certain areas. It was where work got done. On the level above that, level 2, they kept the cells for lower priority prisoners, ones that weren't major threats in terms of power, but had something to offer, whether it be information, political use, or some special trait. That floor was mainly where they kept prisoners of war, along with people they intended to interrogate. Then, underground, they kept the dangerous ones. Level 0, aka Malabulge. That's where they kept the absolute worst of the worst. The ones down there had committed atrocities worse than could be described, and they had the strength to back it up. The prisoners at this level were kept alive solely because of their usefulness. As a testament to that, certain prisoners with good behavior were given opportunities to do jobs in exchange of things like lighter sentences and certain perks. It was essentially a suicide squad mindset. Let them out briefly to do their job, but if things go wrong, precautions are in place to where everything can be blamed on them. Going along with that, most devils had no idea that Malabulge was even real. What little they did know of it consisted solely of rumors and speculation. Zerius, Albedo, and Esdeath teleported into level 1 of the prison. None of the 3 looked particularly happy. Zerius looked towards his pawn. So, explain to me how they escaped. Zerius began, a slight amount of annoyance in his tone. I know they were considered priority prisoners, but we had them in a private holding cell, and neither of them should have been strong enough to get past the guards. He stated. Actually, my lord. Only one fallen angel managed to leave the prison. Albedo explained. Feel free to correct me if I'm wrong, but as I recall you said that both prisoners escaped. Esdeath pointed out, irritation clear on her face. Obviously she wasn't happy having been interrupted before she and her master could finish their alone time. Well, I saw that simply saying both of them escaped would be quicker than trying to explain the full situation at the time. Albedo said, sending a small glare towards Esdeath. So you decided to lie to your own king. How unbecoming of a lowly pawn. Esdeath mocked. What was that? I don't think I heard you correctly. Albedo began, gaining a tick mark on her head. Oh, my bad. Esdeath began. Do those 2 useless horns on your head affect your hearing? I'll be sure to talk louder and slower. She countered, intentionally slowing the later half of her stated down. Albedo narrowed her eyes. My horns are a proud symbol of my estimated heritage, not that you would know anything about familial pride. Pretty big talk coming from a pure-blooded devil too weak to take more than 5 measly pawn pieces. No wonder the Baphomet clan is so small. You all must get killed off like flies in times of war. The blue-haired woman taunted. Albedo gained a tick mark, but she kept calm. The word of a lowly reincarnated devil isn't worth even recognizing. Albedo stated. Reincarnated devil. Is that the closest thing to an insult that you can come up with? How disappointing. The blue-haired woman countered. Though I shouldn't expect much from a spoiled princess like you. Albedo began to lose her cool. Well, I'd much rather be spoiled than a conceited swine that not even her parents wanted. Esdeath frowned. Entitled weakling. Esdeath said with a glare as the area around her began to freeze. Arrogant trash. Albedo said much less calmly as she demonic energy began rolling off her. At this point, the guards around them were beginning to sweat. A couple had already left the room. Enough. Zerius announced, drawing the women's attention back to him. He sighed. We've been over this. If you want to fight that's fine, but what are the rules? The demonic energy coming from the 2 women receded. It has to be on our own time. Esdeath stated. And? Zerius continued. It has to be in a location where we can't break anything. Albedo finished. But girls. Zerius stated as he began walking deeper into the prison, his 2 peerage members following behind him. And that's why I try to keep those 2 separated, he reminded to himself. Now Albedo, which one escaped? Actually, I believe that I can explain that. A voice said from behind the trio. The 3 all turned around to the source of the voice. Oh, Makina, it's you. Esdeath said upon seeing the woman who had spoken to them. The woman was young and attractive. She has noticeably large breasts with dark brown hair that was mostly kept in her prison hat, with 1 lock of hair hanging right of her face. She had blue-gray eyes and sported pink lipstick. Her attire consisted of a dark blue guard uniform along with a matching hat. Her pants are white and she wore black knee-length, high-heeled boots that are high-heeled. On her hip was strapped a simple cutlass. This was Makina Malakota, head warden of the prison. She was also Esdeith's former student. Makina gave a bow to Esdeith. "Hello, teacher," she spoke dutifully. Esdeith sighed. "I'm not your teacher anymore," she reminded the woman. "You will always be my teacher as long as I continue to use the torture techniques that you taught me," the Malakota stated. She then turned to Zerius and Albedo, bowing to them as well. "And greetings to two as well, Lord Satan, Lady Baphomet." Albedo simply nodded at her presence. "Hey Makina." Zerius began with a lazy wave. "Where's your father?" he asked. "My father is currently on vacation," she stated. "Until he returns, I am the interim director of the prison," she explained. Zerius nodded. "Okay then. Listen, I'd love to talk, but I think we all need to focus on the matter at hand," he stated. "Right. Please follow me." Makina spoke as she walked deeper into the facility. Zerius and his servants followed her. "The one who escaped, it was the blue-haired one, Calwerner," she answered. "And what about the other one?" Middled. Albedo asked. "Has she been interrogated yet?" "I wouldn't have a problem doing it," Esdeith said with a frown on her face. "I need to let off some steam anyway." "I'm sorry teacher, but in this circumstance interrogation is not an option," Makina said as she led the group through the prison. "And why is that?" Zerius asked suspiciously. "Was she killed by one of the guards?" "I don't believe so, Lord Satan, but I'm not entirely sure," Makina stated. The group walked into the area of the holding cells. "Not entirely sure. Why wouldn't you? Oh. The entire area was a wreck. Aside from the massive hole in the wall, there were also multiple corpses of prison guards and prisoners thrown about. Some had wounds from being impaled up, others were decapitated, etc. The point is there were almost 36 lifeless bodies all over." Zerius and his group walked over to the holding cell that was used by the fallen angels. It was then that he saw something less than pleasant. "Oh, yeah, this isn't pretty," Zerius said as he looked at the corpse on the ground. Despite the giant bloody hole in her chest, the chrisman liquid dripping from her mouth, and the now lifeless look in her eyes, Zerius was easily able to identify the corpse as Middled. Zerius knelt down to get a better look at the fallen angel's body. "One of the guards reported an intruder," Makina began. "I sent several more guards to deal with it. When no one reported back, I came here myself, and this is what I found." Zerius hummed as he examined Middled's corpse. "Esdeith," he began without turning around, "what's your opinion?" "Well, if I had to present a guess," she began, "I'd say that neither of the fallen that you captured yesterday could do this alone. The intruder probably did this while trying to break them out," she surmised. Zerius smiled as he looked at her. "You make good points." He then turned to Makina. "Makina, the corpses have been examined, right?" he asked. "Yes, sir," the warden responded. "They all had major burns on their wounded areas, the exception being the fallen angel," she stated. "All signs point to it being light-based weapons that were used." "Yeah." Zerius put his hand to his chin and thought as he stood up. "Middled had some burns on her too, but they're pretty minor. It wasn't the guards who killed her. So who could have done this?" Zerius thought. "Well," Esdeith began. "Most exorcists wouldn't be able to pull this off, and an angel would be too scared of falling to commit this much homicide, so it was most likely a fallen angel, a strong one at that," she said. Albedo continued. "The question is, why did the fallen kill Middleton and take Calwerner when they could have taken both?" "Probably an intimidation tactic," Esdeith said. "To show that he or she had no issue killing Calwerner if she do follow orders." "Most likely," Albedo stated. Zerius just stared at the two. To be honest, this Kinda investigation wasn't his forte. He was good at breaking things, that was just his nature. Figuring out how something got broken and why just didn't appeal to him. He could contribute a little bit, but he normally wasn't too good at coming up with actual ideas and solutions. The white-haired man was happy that the two members of his peerage with the best deductive skills were with him. While it was true that Esdeith and Albedo couldn't stand each other, practically speaking, they had good chemistry. It was just a matter of having them focus on something beside each other. They could really make an effective team if they just kept their tempers in check. "That is possible, yes," Makina stated. "But what remains unclear is why Calwerner. What is it about her that makes her worth this much effort?" "Who knows," Zerius stated. "It's not like we have much to go on here. Everyone who saw the intruder is dead." Before he could continue his thought, a magic circle appeared next to his ear. "Oh, hold on." The white-haired devil told his servants as he brought his hand to the magic circle on his ear. "Yeah," Zerius answered. He was silent a moment as he listened. "What the hell?" he exclaimed. "My lord. What is it?" Albedo asked. "Makina, you're handling cleanup on your own. We need to go." he stated as a large magic circle appeared below him and his servants. Ah, yes. Makina stated after a moment of confusion. But may I know why? She asked. By home. It's being attacked. He told her. The group of 3 appeared outside of the Satan mansion. They were all decently surprised by what they saw. Fallen angels, hundreds of them, all surrounding the mansion. Damn it, they're wrecking my house. Zerius said in an annoyed tone. Sure, you can look at it like that. Esdeath said as she stepped forward. But I, on the other hand, see it as a good opportunity to stretch our legs. She began building up magical energy, creating a freezing aura around her. I believe we should account for the others, Millard. Albedo stated. You're right. Zerius said with a sigh. Well, let's see. Zerius started counting on his fingers. You 2 are with me, and those 2 are on their own missions, so that's 4. He summed up. What about Albedo began? No, she should be fine. Zerius immediately cut her off. Knowing her, she won't come out of the basement unless I tell her to or someone goes after her down there. If a later case happens, then I'm gonna have to clean out a room of corpses later. Well, I'm not gonna do it. I'm gonna order someone to do it, but you get the idea. He looked around. What about everyone else? He looked in the direction of that most of the fallen angels were converging, sending demonic energy to his eyes to strengthen them. Mordred was slicing through fallen angels with reckless abandon. She had even bothered to change into her armor, the only piece on her being the silver and crimson gauntlet on her right hand. The rest of her body was clothed in a white tube top, red jacket, daisy dukes and a pair of black boots. She was a short girl with blonde hair and green eyes. Come on. Give me a real challenge. She exclaimed as she bisected another fallen angel. Nyaa Kuroka began as she walked through a horde of fallen. Kuroka was an attractive young woman with a voluptuous figure, long black hair with split bangs, and hazel gold eyes with cat-like pupils. On her head rested 2 black cat ears, and coming out of her black and yellow kimono were 2 black cat tails. The Nekomata was surrounded by a veil of purplish mist, and all the fallen around her began to drop to the ground. Mor-chan, you should try to be a bit more elegant. People don't like such a tomboy. Nyaa the Nekomata goaded the knight. Mordred turned towards Kuroka, irritation clear on her face. What was that, you stupid cat? The Knight of Treachery yelled. You 2 should remain focused. Another voice stated. The voice came from a man whose entire form is covered in a heavy white and black suit that features a wolf-like design. Long, silver-white hair flowed out of the back section of the helmet. On his back was the sheath for the longsword that he was currently using to decapitate a fallen angel. This was Shirikage, Zerius's rook. We are in the middle of battle. This is not a time to waste energy goading one another. He explained. He caught a fallen angel that tried to charge at him by the throat and slammed him to the ground. You stay out of this, you masked freak. Mordred commanded. No one asked for your opinion. A little bit away from them was a person in a red and black jester's outfit, complete with a standard hat. The person was wielding a large golden scythe, and their was covered by a simple mask that was black on the left and white on the right. He was also short, standing a few inches under Kuroka. The person didn't seem too bothered by the blonde woman's yelling. He simply continued to swing his weapon, killing fallen angels in silence. That was Harlequin, Zerius's second knight. Zerius chuckled at his peerage's antics. Well, they seem to be having fun. Though, I guess it's about time that I interfere. Zerius said as he placed his hand on the ground, preparing to use Silvus Magna. Before Zerius could use his magic, he noticed something odd. About half of the fallen angels had stopped moving. They were just standing or hovering in place, absolutely still. The still active fallen angels seemed to notice this too. One of the fallen flew over to one of the immobile ones and tried to talk to him. Hey, are you Auri? He wasn't able to finish his question as he was suddenly decapitated by the formerly frozen fallen angel's light spear. What the hell? A fallen angel exclaimed before he was impaled by his comrade. What's happening? I can't control my body. Me either. Somebody help me. It was absolutely anarchy. About a third of the fallen angels had broken formation. They were now flying around, brutally killing the fallen that still seemed to be in control of their action. Zerius looked at the events that were transpiring. Well, would you look at that? He said. It seems that Sis came back. Before he could take greater note of the events around him, a form rocketed out of the mansion and into the sky. It was a man. He had black hair, a pale skin, and pointy ears. His eyes had red sclera and yellow pupils. However, the thing that grabbed Zerius's attention was the man's 5 pairs of black wings. It didn't take Zerius long to recognize that particular fallen angel. Cocabial. We obtained what we came for. If you are still in control of your actions, then retreat. Cocabial announced to his troops as he flew off. Taking his words, most of the fallen angels began to flee. Oh no, you don't. You have some questions to answer. Zerius exclaimed as he jumped after the 10-winged fallen angel. He extended his own wings, all 12 of them, and flew after the cadre. However, before he could get close, he was cut off by over a dozen fallen angels getting in his way. "Protect Lord Cocabial," one of them commanded. "DCH, annoying," Zerius mumbled. He reached out and grabbed the closest fallen angel by the face. He then threw that fallen into the large group of them. As the fallen angels caught their ally, Zerius snapped his fingers. Grow. As if responding to his action, vines suddenly burst from the fallen angel's stomach. The vines wrapped around and impaled him and the other fallen angels in his vicinity. In a giant mess of foliage and gore, the fallen angel corpse fell down to earth. Zerius looked around, but his target was nowhere to be found. Cocabial had gotten away. "Damn it," Zerius said. A bunch of random fallen angels attacking the mansion is one thing, but them being led by Cocabial is another. The hell was he after? The man descended slowly and landed back on the ground near the mansion. "Papa." The white-haired man's attention was taken by something else. He turned his head to the side as something impacted his right leg. Zerius looked down to see a small gray-haired girl hugging his leg. "Shuri," Zerius said with a smile. He picked up the girl. "My precious little princess, are you okay?" he asked the girl. He began moving and turning her to get a better look at her to make sure she didn't have any injuries. No cuts, scrapes, or bruises. The girl was Shuriel Satan, Zerius and Roygun's daughter. "I'm okay," she said. "Mama and Auntie kept me safe." "Auntie? You seem surprised," a familiar voice said. Zerius turned in the direction of the voice and saw a woman walking towards him. "Oh, Lucille, you're back," Zerius said to the woman. "I thought I recognized that particular brand of chaos." Lucille was a tall woman that has long white hair and blue eyes with cross-shaped pupils. On her head sat 2 black horns which seemed to be made of pure darkness. She had a long blue and black tail with a shape resembling a spearhead on its end. Her skin was pale and flawless pale skin, and she possessed a curvy figure. Her attire consisted of a blue dress, along with matching long gloves and heels. This was Lucille Satan, Zerius's older twin sister. "Well, when I heard that someone decided to attack our home, I had to step in," the silver-haired woman stated. "Though I honestly feel like I might have been unnecessary." "Oh, come on," Zerius began. "Necessary or not, it was fun to watch those fallen butcher each other. You don't see that kind of shit every day." Thump. The moment Zerius finished talking, he felt a hand hit him on the back of his head. "Ow," he said in mock pain. He turned around to see his wife Roygun standing behind him, an annoyed look on her face. "I've told you about using curse words around Shuri," she said as she took the girl out of her husband's arms. "It's okay, Mama," Shuriel said. "Papa doesn't take shit from no one." Roygun looked at her daughter. She then sighed. "I can't help but feel like you're becoming more like your father every day." "I know, it's adorable, right?" Zerius asked with a smile. "Well, I suppose." She gave her husband a light kiss on the cheek. The woman then turned back to her daughter. "Shuriel, time to go to bed," Roygun stated as she walked away holding her daughter's hand. "But what about Papa?" the girl asked as she looked towards her father. Zerius gave a wave. "Don't worry, I'll tuck you in later." "Oh, okay then," Shuriel said. She gave a large wave to her father. "Bye, Papa." They left. "Such an adorable niece I have," Lucille started with a small chuckle. "The most adorable," Zerius said happily. He turned back to his peerage. "Okay everyone, now we what?" Zerius asked upon seeing some of the dirty look a few of his peerage members were giving him. "Nothing," Mordred announced as she looked away from him, a small blush on her face. "It's just, you always are so happy when Lady Roygun is present," Albedo stated. "It's not fair," Kuroka exclaimed. "I can't help but feel a bit jealous," Esdeath stated. "Jealous?" Zerius questioned. "I believe your harem's feeling inferior to your wife," Lucille said with a small chuckle. It was obvious that she was enjoying the situation. "Inferior?" the white-haired man wondered. He turned to the girls. "I don't get it. What would any of you feel inferior about? Every one of you is just as strong and beautiful as her. You're just plain amazing actually," he stated without a hint of hesitation. The girls blushed. "So, is everyone alright?" Zerius asked, looking around. "Yeah, I'm good," Mordred told him. "There's no way I'd get injured from trash like that." "Mfine Naya," Kuroka stated. "I seem to be unharmed," Shirikage stated. Harlequin just nodded silently. "Alright then, in that case, all that's left is." Zerius looked around. After a minute of not seeing what he was looking for, Zerius spoke. "Where's Asia?" he asked. Everyone looked around, but no one could see the blonde-haired nun. Zerius closed his eyes and expanded his senses in an attempt to locate her magic signature. He couldn't find her. "Fuck," Zerius cursed. An hour later. Zerius had just put Shuriel to bed. Now he was sitting in the main room with only his sister. Those fallen that we captured. Did they say anything? Zerius asked. Nothing useful, Lucille stated. They were just following orders blindly. A couple of them didn't even know who the mansion belonged to. Lucille was a master of interrogation. Her specialized curse, Macro, could enable her to take full control of an enemy's body, which is how she took control of all of those fallen angels earlier. If she used it the right way, getting others to tell her any information they knew was child's play. If she couldn't get any helpful information from them, that meant they didn't have any. Great. Zerius said sarcastically. So we still don't know why Cocabial would take Asia. He is probably the one who took that fallen angel you acquire as well. Lucille said while taking a sip of tea. Halwerner? Zerius said out loud. He brought his hand up to his chin, thought about it for a moment. Actually, yeah, that makes sense. Someone on his level could have pulled a stunt like that off easy. He said. But then what's the link between the two of them? Outside of the stuff that happened in Kuo, there's no real connection between the two, and if it was about that mess, then he probably would have taken Middle too, instead of just killing her. Zerius stated. It has to be something big. If it wasn't, he wouldn't have gone out of his way to blatantly attack my home. If I had to guess, he probably needed her ability. Lucille pointed out. Argento's Twilight Healing is a very strong supportive sacred gear. From what I gather, he probably needs her to heal something. Or someone, Zerius said cryptically. Whatever he's trying to heal, it has to be pretty important to warrant that much effort. But that still doesn't explain what he wants with Halwerner. Any ideas there? He asked his sister. Lucille shrugged. Nothing that can be confirmed or supported, at least not without more information. But I do have an idea of where to get that information. She stated. The room stood silent for a moment. Are you going to tell me? Zerius asked his sister. I could, but I want you to guess first. She stated with a smirk. What? You're seriously making me do this? He asked awkwardly. You have to make time for the little things. Lucille told him. Come on, it's something obvious. Zerius, he hummed and thought. Wait, I know. He exclaimed as he stood up. Then say it. Lucille told him. Wonder Twin powers activate. He shouted, pushing his fist in his sister's direction. Come on. This is the part where we fist bump. Then you turn into an animal and I turn into some form of water. Zerius then turned his head and spoke to himself. Actually, can he only turn into water? That's kinda lame. No wonder they were discontinued. Lucille simply stared at her brother for a moment. Brother, considering that your most recent charge has been abducted, I thought that you might be a little more serious. She said while shaking her head. Zerius shrugged. You have to make time for the little things. He repeated her word back to her. Besides, if Cocabial wanted to kill Asia, he would have done that here, instead of going through the trouble of kidnapping her. I don't think she's in any real danger, at least for the time being. He stated, sitting back down. Okay, so what's your plan? I guessed, so I deserve an answer. Well, I suppose that was a guess, if only an extremely terrible one. Lucille chimed with a chuckle in. Why don't you go ask someone who knows Cocabial? Talking with Azazel would probably clear most of the situation up. Zerius looked at his sister. You see, that's why you're the smart twin. He stated. Yes, and you're the wonder twin apparently. Lucille jokes. Anyway, I can get you into contact with him. Oh, don't worry about it. Zerius stopped her. Don't you remember, I know his secretary. He smirked as he formed a magic circle in his hand and brought it up to his ear. No might be a bit of a loose term to describe your relationship. Lucille said as she casually sipped some more tea. Zerius shushed his sister. He started talking into the magic circle. Hey Penemu, it's Zerius. Yeah, it has been a while. That is true. Listen, I'd love a casual talk, but right now I need a favor. The meeting. Zerius teleported himself outside of a large building. The building was pretty boring in design. It was pretty much just a gray box with windows. Though it was pretty boring to look at, it was massive, easily taking up a couple thousand feet of squared space. This was the Grigori main headquarters. The devil couldn't teleport directly into Grigori HQ. Aside from being a fight waiting to happen, the facility had numerous seals in place to prevent that sort of thing. Security reasons. Unfortunately, Zerius didn't bother to consider the numerous guards posted on the outside of the complex. Halt. One of the guards yelled as he pointed his spear directly at Zerius. Right, of course they have guards outside. Zerius said to himself. This is on me. Within a minute, 4 more guards had appeared and surrounded the devil with their light spears ready. Stay where you are, devil. One of the fallen told him. Seriously? Are you really trying this? Zerius asked. I get the impression that you don't know who I am. Quite. Another fallen spoke. You'll be coming with us. Okay guys, listen, the white-haired man began. I would honestly love to turn all of you into corpses, but I don't have time for this, so I'm just going to go on in. Zerius walked past the fallen angles and towards the buildings. Stop now. One of the guards shouted. Zerius didn't listen as he just kept walking through the group. Fine. You made me do this. He brought his light spear back and prepared to stab at Zerius. What are you all doing? A voice called out. Zerius and the group of fallen all looked over to the voice and saw a beautiful woman standing outside the building. She wore a light violet shirt, black pants and black high-heeled shoes. Her eyes was a dark purple which matched her hair was currently up in a ponytail. The woman was Penemu, Azazel's secretary and one of the upper members of Grigori. This man has an important meeting with Lord Azazel today. She informed the guards. One of the guards spoke, obviously scared of his superior. But Lady Penemu, she cut him off. No excuses. She told them. Just get back to your posts. Yes ma'am. The guards all announced. Zerius watched them as they all ran full speed back to their stations. The white-haired man turned back to the woman. Thanks for that Penemu. Zerius said as he walked up to the woman. I really didn't feel dealing with all that. I owe you one. Penemu smirked. My, if you put this together with the meeting with Azazel, those little favors you owe me are starting to add up. The two began walking inside the building. Zerius chuckled. Yeah, sorry about that. He told her. How about I take you out to dinner to repay you? She smiled. Well, I think I'd like that. She admitted. Great. Zerius responded. But, we'll have to put a rain check on that for now. How long until the meeting? He asked her. Only a few minutes. She said with shrug. Cool, Zerius stated. Then we just need to sit and talk for a little. He was cut off by the sound of footsteps. Zerius looked to the side to see a man approaching. The man was young, appearing in his early 20s at the oldest. His hair was dark blue, with a single white fringe. His eyes were blue, and they were protected behind a large pair of round form was mostly concealed behind a dark red coat lined with white fur. Upon taking in the man's appearance, a large smile appeared on Zerius's face. Yo, Highland. The devil said to the man happily. How you doing? Oh, He-Man said with apathy, you're here. Alright I guess. Oh, come on Highland. Penemu began. At least try to show some enthusiasm. Why? The glasses-wearing man asked her. He then took some pieces of paper out from his coat. Anyway, Barack will want me to give you these. He handed the papers to her. Later. He began walking away. Wait. Highland, stay for a little while. She tried to get him to stick around. He just waved, not bothering to even turn around, and continued walking. I'm good. Later. He said as he left. Penemu sighed. That boy. I swear, he never listens to me. It's fine. Zerius told her with a light chuckle. Guys like to do our own thing. I'm sure there's just something on his mind. Penemu seemed doubtful. Still, you'd think he'd show at least a small reaction when his father shows up. She said to herself. To say that Highland and Zerius's relationship was strained would be fairly accurate. Due to the high tensions between the devils and the fallen angels, Zerius wasn't around very often as Highland was growing up, mostly stopping in for only short periods of time, usually 1 or 2 days at most. Before leaving. The blue-haired boy's half-devil heritage was no secret among Grigori, however only the higher-ranking members knew the details like his father's identity. Regardless, the boy's nature as a half-breed made him a target of bullying as he grew up, something he held against his father somewhat. Zerius couldn't really blame him. Looking back at himself, from Highland's perspective, he saw a father that was in and out, mostly out, who was the source for a good amount of trouble growing up. Not exactly an inspiring picture. There was certainly no animosity between the two, but to say that the two of them had a functioning father-son relationship would definitely be a stretch. Don't get him wrong, Zerius loved Highland just as much as he did Shuriel. He just wasn't able to spend as much time with him. Politics was a bitch like that. Penemu looked down at her watch. Well, it looks like that took just long enough. She turned to Zerius. You can go ahead and go in. She told him. Thanks. The devil replied as he walked towards the door. Zerius opened the door. On the other side of the room, Azazel was sitting at a large desk covered in a myriad of papers. Hey Azazel, Zerius waved to the man as he walked into the room. Hi there Zerius. The Governor-General stated. You know, I was pretty surprised when I saw your name on my meeting list this morning. Yeah, well this whole thing was kind of sudden. Zerius admitted. Yeah, if you weren't nailing my secretary, you probably wouldn't be able to get an appointment for a month. Azazel said jokingly. Haha, Zerius gave a well-intentioned but somewhat dry laugh. Anyway, I should go ahead and tell you why I'm here. And so Zerius told him about the new developments with the fallen angels, as well as Cocabial. I see Azazel began after Zerius finished. He held down a button on the corner of his desk. "Can you please reschedule all of my meetings for the rest of the day?" "Oh, should I be expecting a female guest later today?" Penemu joked from the other end of the speaker. Azazel laughed. "Not today, I'm afraid," he told her. The man then gained some seriousness in his tone. "But in all seriousness, this is important." "Alright then. I'll take care of it," she agreed as she hung up from her end. Azazel leaned back in his chair. "I had been getting the feeling that Cocabial was up to something, but I was sure nothing would happen for a while," he said to himself. The man looked to his guest. "I'm sorry about the trouble my subordinate caused." "Don't worry about it." Zerius waved him off. "As long as you pay for the damages to my home and the prison, I won't hold a grudge." Azazel smiled. "Well, that seems easy enough," he said. "So just send me the bill and I'll take it out of Cocabial's account." "Great," Zerius stated. "Just send the money to my sister, she's better with that kind of stuff." "I'll try to remember that," the Governor General said with a small laugh. "Now there's just one more concern I could use your help with," Zerius spoke. "The nun?" Azazel surmised. Zerius nodded. "Not just her. Kalwarner too." "I don't get it." "I understand Asia. Her sacred gear can be considered a strong asset. What confuses me is Kalwarner. Why would Cocabial go through the trouble of breaking her out? If it was just meant to be a distraction for me, he could have sent some of his soldiers to the human world while I was there, but instead, he goes through the trouble of breaking into Lilith prison and breaking Kalwarner out. There has to be something special about her, some reason that he needs both her and Asia." "Well," Azazel began, his hand on his chin. "Ability-wise, Kalwarner is pretty average. If I had to give a reason that would make her unique, it would have to be no, that impossible." Azazel began mumbling to himself. Even Cocabial wouldn't be that reckless. But if that really is the case. The man's odd behavior piqued the devil's interest. "You seem to have an idea," Zerius noted. "You mind sharing?" "Well, it's just an idea." Azazel started cryptically. "If it's what I'm thinking, then Cocabial's actions would make sense, but there would still be one major factor that he's missing. Unless he already managed to get it behind my back. If he did, then this is trouble." The Governor General was noticeably on edge, which was weird for him. "Okay, well, what's the idea?" Zerius inquired. He was beginning to get annoyed by the fallen angel's stalling. Azazel sighed. "Well, it might have something to do with Kalwarner's father." "Her father?" Zerius asked. "Well, who's that?" The Governor General did not answer, simply sitting in his chair with a complicated look on his face. Zerius noticed this. "Come on, Azazel," the white-haired man started. "It's not like you to hesitate like this. Just tell me. Who is Kalwarner's father?" Azazel sighed grimly. "Her father is Azrael, also known as the Angel of Death." End of the part 2. So how was the story? I hope you like it. And if you like it, share this story with your friends and like the video too. And don't forget to subscribe our channel for daily awesome fanfiction. Okay, it's time for me to go. Bye bye.